The formation of a wave mainly depends on three elements: the nature of the bottom, the amplitude of the swell, and the period of the swell. We will see here the bottom parameter, the bathymetry, and the way in which this bathymetry impacts the formation of waves. We will load a default wave. Here we have the default wave of 1.8 meters. We dissociate two things in terms of appearance: the totality of the swell that has been modeled, the swell, and the surf space, the surf space. Here, we are going to hide the swell, therefore the global swell. To keep only the surf space that interests us, to analyze the progress of our wave. We now see the bottom, in red, blue, and green, and the surface of our surf space. We can see here that our wave is going well. It's a nice little straight line that rolls out well over its entire length. We start again at the beginning of the wave. We will put it in normal speed, and there we see our wave unfold. It's a pretty little wave that unrolls well, and this quality of waves totally depends on the nature of the bottom. We will see that if we insert a different bathymetry, our beautiful straight line may have additional peaks. We will do it right away to show the impact of the bathymetry, and learn how to modify the bathymetry to sculpt our wave. So I go to the Wave tab. Here, we see the bathymetry parameters on the far left. In the middle, we see the swell parameters, in particular the two factors: the amplitude factor and the length factor, one which acts on the height of the swell, and the other which acts on the period. With the bathymetry, the amplitude factor and the length factor, we will be able to create all kinds of waves. Because nature does not guarantee that a wave will unroll well. There will be swells that will not break, and swells that break too fast, to generate a surfable space. Let's see how the modification of the bathymetry transformed our wave. I replay the wave in fast motion to memorize the shape before modification. So it's a nice straight line that runs smoothly on its bottom. I put it back to the beginning, go to start. And I'm going to stop it here. We have the blue cursor, which allows us to place ourselves in the wave. We can move temporally in the wave like on a videotape. We are going to put a small bump on our bottom. To access the bottom parameters, we activate the bathymetry on the far left. Here we have bathymetry options. We can hide it, show it with its texture, or show it with a color scale. Describing the depths. We see the color scale, here showing the depths. We will check settings to modify the bathymetry. Here, I just made a small modification on an area. And we will see how this modification affects the quality of our wave. I select the steep section here. We know well that it is the rise of the bottom that generates the wave. In the setting option, when I click on the bathymetry, it selects a point. When I select at the bottom the different modifications that I can apply to the bathymetry, we see the corresponding tools appear. Here the vertical displacement of the bathymetry. I then select the size of the area that I want to transform. I will size the selection rectangle, which appears in green. I thus select a rectangle around my point of selection. In this climb we will place a block. I will vertically distort the selected bathymetry area. Take a good look. As soon as I modify the bathymetry, the wave and the surf space are destroyed. This is because the change in bathymetry makes the wave obsolete. When I modify a parameter of the bathymetry, the wave is erased. So we implanted a small block in the climb. Now we model our new wave by using the rebuild wave function. I rebuild the wave without modifying anything else. We are going to see how this block modifies the structure of my wave, which was a nice straight line that was unrolling. We see the build status of the wave down here. We already see that the wave has a surf space. So we still have a surfable space. The surge is therefore not too chaotic. The software now reconstructs the surf space. A wave modeling takes 10 to 20 seconds. So I rebuild my wave. We hide the swell to show only the surf space. I accelerate the course of time in real speed. So at first, not too much change. But here we see the appearance of a second peak. I'm going to come back to this area there and go to slow motion. I'm backtracking to the new peak. So our wave, which was quite regular, is still the same on its first part. I can stop the wave and control it with a slider. To come here, we see that in the area above the block, a peak has formed. Will it surge? Yes, we see a second peak breaking over this area. Our wave was therefore transformed by the block. It now has a section that closes. If we surfed again, we would find that it is no longer the same wave. So, we can sculpt our wave by modifying the bottom parameters. We will see here in detail how to modify a bathymetry to create a new wave. It can be difficult, at first, to form a nice wave. There are indispensable circumstances which make it possible to obtain a wave. In nature, a beautiful wave does not appear if the required conditions are absent. There really has to be a rise of a certain amount of meters, a swell power, and with a certain period and amplitude to generate a surfable wave. So let's start from waves that are already pre-established in the software, and try to transform them to understand the secrets of a beautiful wave. So the bottom transformation tool is in the Waves tab, under the Bathymetry Settings option. This option gives us access to the tools for editing and transforming the bathymetry. We will go through these tools briefly. We see at the bottom the first tool for sizing the selection. I select a point and choose the number of rows. Expand on row lines and the number of columns, expand on column lines, to control the size of the selection. We have copy-paste functions. If I want to take this piece and copy it elsewhere, I do copy. I place myself elsewhere, and I paste my selection. This copies the entire selection. So we have to select accurately. Here in the bathymetry settings, we have smoothing functions. My cubic block is not natural. Nature rarely makes cubes, so we can smooth our cube to erode it. The smoothing function can be light or 10 times stronger. Here I select a large area. A tip: to select, I take roulette. In fact, I put myself in the drop-down menu, here, at the bottom, and in the panel expand on where the value 14 is displayed here below. I use the wheel to modify the value. I selected the whole area in white. I will smooth it, 1 stroke, several strokes, or times 10, to obtain a greater smoothing. We thus transformed our cubes into 2 small natural bumps. We could also apply 0 altitude to our selection. And for example, using the vertical edit tool here, I can go down and make a plateau. I can select everything with the Select All Grid option. and apply smoothing. I deactivate the Select All Grid option, and I take a slightly smaller selection. I'm going to make a block. At the bottom we have the types of transformations driven by the slider. Here the option is vertical, so when I move the slider, the selected bathymetry goes vertical as the arrow indicates here. If I now want to modify the angle of this block, I select the option bottom angle. I see a ring, which represents the rotation, and the axis of this rotation. Now my cursor changes the angle of this block. The change is slight, you have to do it several times if you want to have a big variation. So I put some angle on my block. I could select the side angle and put angle on this block too. I'll swing it sideways. The block can be rotated. I will expand my selection and smooth to create something more natural. So we can model our bathymetry with these tools. There, what we see on the left is the size of the grid. Stay within a grid of around 20,000 points to avoid exceeding compute resource limits. But depending on the power of your computer, you can model a more or less large surface. 20,000 points is about what it takes to generate a surfable surface. You can size the grid, which determines the bathymetry and the corresponding wave. Stick to these basic settings to keep something functional, but you can have fun straying from them. You'll see what happens in terms of swell creation. You can create much larger areas to analyze wave behavior, and more specifically how currents and swells move through a bay. This can be interesting in terms of oceanographic analysis, but here we leave the use applied to surfing. We can save our bathymetry. We will put it in our library here. We call it Bath Test. So we find it in our library, among the modules of our surf software, stored here in my library, in the bathymetry. We will use the rebuild wave function. And we're going to see the new wave that this new bathymetry is generating. I do not modify the amplitudes and length factor, because I just want to compare how the bottom impacts my wave. You have to start the wave for it to update. If it remains stopped, it is not updated. So here is our new wave. We're going to hide the swell and just show the surf space. When you are editing the bathymetry settings, when you click, you select the bathymetry. If I want to select my surf space, I have to exit the bathymetry settings mode. I can then select my surf space and double-click to position myself. So let's see how my surf space has changed. We're going to speed up again. Here we have the degree of speed, which can be adjusted very finely to choose the speed of the passage of time. So there, we see that there is a big hollow, there is no longer any surge. On the other hand, we now have a surge. Here. It may be an echo of this surface there. So we have a transformed wave. So we can try to reproduce the wave of our favorite spot. A wave is the reflection of the bottom. And if you really want to go into a better knowledge of your favorite wave, I really invite you to analyze its bathymetry and try to reproduce it in shape wave dynamics to understand its secrets. We will reload the original wave of this file. We go to File and we go to Load Basic Wave, and we will load the wave of 1 meter 80. When the wave is stopped, we must put it in motion to update it after its modeling. I put it in natural speed. So this is our original wave. We will see how to insert another bathymetry in this wave. I will go to my library, I will take my bathymetry that I have just recorded, and I will insert it in my wave. When I drag a bathymetry in a wave, I don't change its amplitude or its wavelength. I only change its bathymetry. If I modify the bathymetry, the depth, I have to remodel my wave. So here it is, our wave with its new bathymetry. We go to the Wave Aspect tab, and we hide the swell to see just the surf area, and so we find our wave with its new bathymetry. It is possible to switch from a left wave to a right wave, very simply. Here we have a right. If we wanted a left, it would simply be enough to go to the settings, to transform our entire bathymetry into an opposite symmetrical bathymetry. With the function, revert all grid left and right. We create an opposite wave. If I rebuild it, we will go on a left. We can therefore construct a left or a right with the same bathymetry, simply by inverting the bottom grid. I mask the swell, and we see our wave which has become a left. Now let's see how to modify the direction of the swell. If I select all grid and select the rotate tool, I can rotate the whole bathymetry following a certain direction to model a swell oriented differently on our spot. It will be necessary, when you have just run the whole thing, to readjust certain zones whose definition is unknown. Here, we had no definition of the bathymetry, so the software proposes a shape that must be corrected. So we're just going to do a series of copy-paste areas. There I take my area of selection. I copy it, and I paste it. So here's how to rotate our bathymetry to model different wave orientations. And there, we record the bathymetry. Under bathymetry in the southwest. So I would look for either my bathymetry in the north or in the southwest for an area that I have modeled. So that's the end of this wave modeling tutorial based on bathymetry with Shaperwave Dynamics software.